Hidden Wi-Fi, important date changes, and secret snacks, and a lot more. You better learn these Disney World tips now before your trip passes you by. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So it still amazes me how the DFB team and I have been going to Disney World for years and years and years and years now, and we still manage to learn something new every single time we're there. So today I'm passing down the knowledge that came in handy for me the most when I was in Disney World during my recent 2024 visit, just so you can take this knowledge, run with it, and apply it to your future trips too. First up, Disney buses have been severely underestimated. Sure, buses aren't exactly our preferred way of getting around Disney World property. We love the Skyliner, but they still provide free and convenient service for Disney World guests. And no, I'm not just talking about transportation services here. Many of the Disney buses now have Wi-Fi on board, as well as charging ports, meaning you can juice up your phone and access your social media and My Disney Experience account without eating up any of your data. Not every Disney bus is going to be equipped with this free service, but you'll be able to tell which ones are before you board with the little Wi-Fi sticker that you'll see featured on the front passenger window of the bus, on the left-hand side of the door. And on that note, be on the lookout for Disney's new buses that have recently hit the scene. At the beginning of this year, Disney released lots of new buses that not only have modular seating that can accommodate up to 3 ECVs or wheelchairs, previously it was only 2, but they also have charging ports everywhere, including on the folding seats. These new buses are also designed with more standing room space to hold more guests at a time, which, standing isn't exactly the ideal bus scenario, but hey, it's nice to know more people will be able to fit on a shuttle to help cut down on those bus stop waits. So ever since the 2020 closures, Disney security guards have really cracked down on allowing people to park at Disney World hotels if they're not paying to stay in a room at that hotel or they don't have a dining reservation. In the past, folks were able to park in the hotel lots to run in and grab quick service orders, but now you must have a reservation at a table service restaurant in order to park. Now, in most cases, the parking situation is pretty standard. You show the hotel security up front your resort dining reservations, you're let on into the hotel parking lot, and you got a 2-hour time frame to eat your meal before you have to head on out. Don't want your car getting towed if you overstay, you're welcome. But what our DFB reporters have encountered recently is that the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa has non-hotel guests with dining reservations parking all the way out in the cast member parking lot, which is actually across the street from the resort itself, meaning you're still going to have a bit of a walk from the lot to the hotel after you get there. Just make sure you give yourself plenty of extra time if you've got a dining reservation over at Grand Floridian, or plan to take one of Disney's complimentary transportation services from the parks or the Disney Springs shopping district to avoid having to stress over your car entirely. Now, don't forget, Epcot's festival dates have changed. You know what I always say, the only thing that's consistent about Disney is it's inconsistent. Even if Disney has done something the same way in their parks for the past few years, never get too comfy with that type of familiarity, because the moment you do, Disney's gonna flip it. For example, we're experiencing a whole lot of change with the Epcot Festivals this year, and we might see even more changes to come. First of all, Epcot Flower and Garden Festival is considerably shorter in 2024 than it has been in the past few years. The 2024 Epcot Flower and Garden Festival started on February 28th and is going to be running until May 27th this year. Now, in previous years, Flower and Garden started at the beginning of March and lasted until right after the 4th of July. So if you were planning on going to Epcot sometime in June, hoping your visit would fall during that Flower and Garden timeframe, you may want to push your trip up by a few weeks if you're able to. I understand that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do when you're only a few months out from your big trip, so don't feel pressured to do that and mess up all your nice and tidy planning. Just be aware that if you do go in June, Epcot more than likely won't be hosting a festival, at least not for the whole month. Of course, we don't know anything about Food and Wine at this point. They could absolutely surprise us again. And that brings me to my next point. Because of this Flower and Garden switcheroo, we're starting to think that this year's Epcot Food and Wine Festival might be seeing some major changes. There are potentially 3 ways Food and Wine could go down this year. We might see it cut short like Flower and Garden, leaving a huge gap in the summer for maybe something else to fill that space, a new festival. We might see Food and Wine lengthen, since Communicore Hall and Communicore Plaza should hopefully be open by then, meaning we could see Food and Wine activities like food demonstrations and seminars brought back to this festival, which we haven't seen since 2019. Or Or we might not see any changes at all. There's no way of knowing until we hear that game plan straight from Disney. So the best thing you can do is keep the Food and Wine Festival on your radar and sign up for our free DFB newsletter. We're going to let you know just as soon as we hear what's really going to go down with it in 2024, which hopefully we'll know sooner rather than later so we can start planning. Now, sometimes we get so caught up in the rest of our Disney vacation planning, getting those park tickets and hotel rooms and the add-on services that'll make our Disney days easier, and we completely forget about the expense that'll actually get us to Orlando. But honestly, booking a flight needs to be one of the first things you do before you book anything else for your Disney World vacation, because it might end up being one of the biggest expenses of your trip, depending on when you're traveling. While there's no one-size-fits-all solution to help you book your flight when prices are their cheapest, here are a few tricks that we tend to use that have a pretty good track record for us. Tip number 1, try to book your flight between 1 and 3 months before you plan to travel. Booking your flight earlier or later could result in potentially higher prices. If you do book early and then find a cheaper flight later on, see what your airline's cancellation policy is. Might be worth it to cancel your flight and rebook the cheaper one that you find. Tip number 2, let an app do the work for you. Instead of going to each airline's website to look at prices, you can take advantage of free flight tracker apps. These will alert you when ticket prices change and can help you decide when to book a flight and when to hold out for possibly lower rates. Tip number 3, look at the airline policies and perks. Like I mentioned just a second ago, look up the cancellation policies in that fine print. Ever since COVID, many airlines have relaxed their change fees in light of the increased amount of flight cancellations. For example, both Southwest and American Airlines have no change fees, at least for domestic flights. Note that most airlines, though, will definitely charge you the difference if you change to a flight that's more expensive than the one you originally booked. In addition, pay attention to any extra perks that might save you money as well. For instance, Southwest allows all travelers to check 2 bags for free, with other airlines charging on average $30 to $50 per checked bag. So it might actually be cheaper to book a more expensive flight on Southwest and save when it comes to luggage. Your new favorite Disney cuisine or snack or drink might not even be listed on the main restaurant menu for wherever you are, but you have to know where to go and you have to know what to ask for to get these secret menu items. For example, Skipper Canteen over in Magic Kingdom, this is a hotspot for secret menu items. And while these secret items are apt to change frequently, the most common off-menu item you're going to be able to order is that Brazilian cheese bread or the pão de queijo. This is very similar to the Brazilian cheese bread that can be found during Epcot's Food and Wine Festival, but this version comes with chimichurri cream cheese, and that is a game changer. If you're over at Disney Springs visiting Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar, it's tempting to just order one of the drinks straight off the menu for their wacky names alone, but this bar tends to be a treasure trove of secret cocktails for all explorers and explorers at heart, as long as you're 21 plus, that is. You'll want to ask your server to see what's currently being offered off menu, but in the past we've been able to order spirits like the Lucky Lindy, made with Dragon Fire Jameson, watch out for that heat, hibiscus, lime juice, pineapple, and white cranberry juice. Sometimes you can score a secret menu item at a lounge that's attached to an actual sit-down restaurant. Case in point, the super popular PB&J milkshake is an absolute staple at the 50s Primetime Cafe restaurant in Hollywood Studios, but depending on when you visit, you might also be able to order it at the attached Tune-In Lounge instead. No reservations required. And bonus for all you grown-ups out there, you might also be able to get this PB&J shake spiked for an additional cost. Want to learn about even more secret menu items? We got you. Swing on over to the dfbstore.com website and pick up our 2024 guide to Walt Disney World dining, which is jam-packed with lots of secrets, secret menus, secret ways to save money, secret dining tips. We spill our guts out and over this digital guide, my friends. It's gross, but you get the idea. So grab a copy. Don't forget to type in code YouTube to save some extra money on your total purchase. And remember, this is absolutely a 100% money back guaranteed purchase. We are going to give you your money back if you don't love that book, and you get to keep it. So remember how I mentioned earlier that the only consistent thing in Disney World is inconsistency? Yeah, that goes for its food too, in the best and most disappointing ways possible. Menu and restaurant changes are pretty much a weekly, if not daily, thing in the Disney restaurant scene. We know because we track every single one of them, and we put a blog post up every single week about all the menu changes across Disney World. So prices increase, prices decrease, menu items are added and taken away. Restaurants close, restaurants reopen, new eateries are added, hours change, beloved festival booths don't come back next year, and seasonal items return. It's definitely a mixed bag of newness every single time you go to Disney World, and that's why even if you made your must-eat list just a few months ago in preparation for your big Disney trip, you're gonna want to do your research again when it comes closer to the time you're gonna go. Make sure the things you want to try are actually still gonna be there when you visit. As far as new restaurants go, Disney's given us a lot of new stuff to try recently, like Summer House on the Lake in Disney Springs, Eat, also in Disney Springs, and Shikisai Sushi Izakaya in Epcot. But later this year, we're going to start seeing even more new restaurants, especially over at the Boardwalk Inn, which is getting ready to open up the Cake Bake Shop and Blue Ribbon Corn Dogs. And get this, after years of waiting for a character buffet to return to Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, we are finally about to see the grand reopening of 1900 Park Fare, which is going to start back up again on April 10th, 2024 in a whole new way. This refreshed dining experience is going to include Aladdin in his Prince Ali look, Cinderella, Mirabelle from Encanto, and Tiana in her new look for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Quite an eclectic lineup, right? Although I must admit, I'm baffled that I'm not seeing Mary Poppins back as a meet and greet character. Like, aren't all these new Grand Floridian renovations centered around Mary Poppins? It feels like a given that she should be here too, like back in the good old days. Anyway, it's good to see this breakfast and dinner buffet offering return to the dining scene, and I'm more than intrigued for Disney's promise of fresh menu offerings that'll pay homage to the new characters and their stories. But don't worry, the strawberry soup is coming back. Advanced dining reservations for 1900 Park Fare opened up on March 5th, 2024, so don't forget to set your alarms 60 days before your trip so you can secure those reservations before they're all booked up, if this is a restaurant you're wanting to visit too. Want to visit the Disney parks during one of their special holiday parties? Or do you just want to stay in the parks when everyone else is being asked to leave? Then you're going to want to know when those after hours and holiday party tickets are going to start to go on sale. Don't worry, we can help you out with that. At the beginning of 2024, we learned when the after hours events would start taking place in the parks. Magic Kingdom's after hours started on January 11th and are going to continue to offer events on certain nights up until June 27th. Epcot's after hours started up on February 2nd and will happen on select dates until July 18th, and Hollywood Studios After Hours began January 10th and will run on select dates until August 29th. Nothing for Animal Kingdom just yet this year, but we'll let you know if that changes later on. While earlier party dates toward the beginning of January could be purchased in 2023 for those end-of-the-year trips that bled into the beginning of the new year, the dates for all the other 2024 after-hours parties went live on the site for the general public starting January 31st, 2024. So you could potentially go out to the Disney website and purchase your 2024 after-hour tickets, like right now if you wanted to. After-hours events are capped off at a limited number of guests, so even though they don't tend to sell out immediately, they will eventually sell out when it comes closer to that event day usually. So it's good to purchase these tickets sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, holiday party tickets for events like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party in Magic Kingdom, or Jollywood Nights if it returns in 2024, will typically go on sale months before the actual party kickoffs. Last year, Not So Scary tickets were available for select dates from August 11th to November 1st, and these went on sale for guests to purchase on May 2nd for the general public, and were completely sold out before October rolled around. For the 2023 Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, the event was held on certain nights from November 9th to December 22nd, and tickets went on sale for all guests on July 6th. They were sold out by the beginning of December. Because Jollywood Nights was a new player added to the roster last year, things might be a little different for it if it returns, but we did see those after-hours tickets for Jollywood Nights go live around the same time that Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party tickets did last year, July 6th for the general public. Now, when I say general public, I say that because if you're staying at a Disney World-owned hotel, you may be able to purchase tickets earlier. You may get kind of first dibs on the dates you want to go. So stay tuned to our newsletter for that information too. Again, you can't rely on these dates to be exact, but this does give you a major hint as to when you can expect them to go live on the site. Because even if Very Merry Christmas tickets aren't available on July 6th exactly, more than likely you're still going to see them go live at the beginning of summer this year. So heads up, Genie Plus can and does sell out. So Disney Genie Plus has been a big part of the Disney World scene for a few years now, so it's easy to start taking this premium line bypassing service for granted. But if you want to use it during your trip, then you really shouldn't take it for granted. During Disney's busier seasons like spring break or around the holidays, aka when the need for lightning lanes is at an all-time high because the crowds are at an all-time high, more people are going to be prioritizing those Genie Plus purchases, so you could see them sell out pretty quickly on the day of your visit. To make sure you don't miss your window of opportunity to purchase this service, keep in mind that Disney Genie Plus goes on sale the day of your visit starting at midnight. You won't be able to make your first lightning lane selection until 7 a.m., but you can buy Disney Genie Plus and get your whole family sorted out in the mix at midnight. Now, although Genie Plus includes a lot of rides, some of the more in-demand rides have that individual lightning lane option instead, meaning you just pay per ride per person for those more popular attractions like Tron Light Cycle Run in Magic Kingdom or Flight of Passage in Animal Kingdom. Now, these individual lightning lanes will also not be available starting at midnight. Instead, you can either pay for and book an individual lightning lane starting at 7 a.m. if you're staying on property as a Disney hotel guest, or pay for and book an individual lightning lane right when the park you're visiting opens if you're staying off property. Oh, and by the way, those individual lightning lanes, those will also sell out really early on those very busy days. So lots of information thrown right there for you. So let's reel it back in here. It's a good idea to keep an eye on wait times for rides a week or two before your trip. If the wait times seem higher than usual, that's a good indicator that Genie Plus could sell out during your trip. Higher wait times often motivate guests to purchase Genie Plus, so don't wait until you're already in the park to purchase yours and run the risk of them already being sold out by the time you arrive. Also, keep in mind that you by no means have to purchase Genie Plus for your entire trip. You can choose which days you want to tack it onto and which days you'd rather skip it entirely. It's your call. But if you want to learn more about how Genie Plus and individual lightning lanes work, because it's a lot to process at first, then be sure to scan the QR code you see on the screen now or head over to disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyGeniePlus to download our free Genie Plus cheat sheet. Everything's in there for you. And since we're already on the subject of Genie Plus, let's talk about an important Genie Plus rule that a lot of people forget about. Once you purchase Disney Genie Plus, you can make your first lightning lane selection at 7 a.m., whether you're staying at a Disney hotel or not. You can only book one lightning lane at a time, but you can book your next lightning lane once you use your previous selection or 2 hours after you made your last selection, whichever comes first. Just keep in mind that the 2-hour rule doesn't start until the park officially opens, even if you made your first selection at 7 a.m. So it's tricky, but if you ever lose track of when you can book your next lightning lane, you can always check your My Disney Experience app and it'll tell you the exact time you can make your next selection. Now, let's say you book a lightning lane for Toy Story Mania in Hollywood Studios, but later on, you check the lightning lane listings again and find out there's a lightning lane for Slinky Dog Dash you didn't see earlier. Here's the good news. Modifying a lightning lane selection doesn't reset your 2-hour wait anymore like it used to. So for example, if you made your original Toy Story Mania lightning lane selection at 9 a.m., you'll still be able to make another selection at 11 a.m. even if you end up switching your Toy Story Mania lightning lane for the Slinky Dog Dash one. To modify a lightning lane, just tap on the one you want to change and toggle its little pop-up box. From there, you can modify your lightning lane and switch it out for something else. All right, one of my favorite tips that sometimes even I forget is this one. Okay, so ride closures aren't always bad, and sometimes they can even work in your favor. If there's an attraction closed and said attraction is next to a bathroom, then say hello to a private bathroom. Last time I went to Hollywood Studios, I scouted out the bathrooms next to Rock and Roller Coaster, and when I tell you those stalls were practically empty, I am not kidding you. When there's not a flood of guests constantly coming on and off the roller coaster, then there's not a huge demand or reason for people to go out of their way to track down the bathrooms there. But if you're looking for peace and quiet, then there is so totally a reason you'll want to track down the bathrooms here. If it's privacy you need, privacy is what you're going to get. This is also a good strategy for those restrooms that are near a show building, like next to Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond in Animal Kingdom. While these bathrooms can be busy when a show lets out, they become so quiet you can hear a pin drop during the show itself. So even if you don't necessarily want to see the performance, it still might be worth traveling over to this area for a personal meeting with one of the porcelain thrones. Also remember that this tip works when rides are closed for rain as well. So some of those outdoor rides might be closed for rain or for inclement weather, and when they're down, those bathrooms aren't very busy. So are we ever going to see the end of all of Disney World's major construction projects? Like, I know we've already established that Disney changes all the time, but the endless closures, the keep away walls, the magic breaking, torn apart areas, they can get tiring. Now, per the release of this video, these are the closures and construction zones you need to be aware of now in anticipation of your upcoming trip. Over half of Frontierland in Magic Kingdom is being renovated, with Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Country Bear Musical Jamboree slated to reopen by this summer. The Voyage of the Little Mermaid show in Hollywood Studios is now permanently closed but will be replaced by a reinvigorated show, a reimagined show called The Little Mermaid: A Musical Adventure in fall 2024. Rock and Roller Coaster is once again going through a major refurbishment and isn't set to reopen until this summer. And while we're excited to see those Boardwalk Inn restaurants finally open, they are still under construction at this time, with no exact opening dates yet. Grand Floridian Resort and Spa has been undergoing lots of maintenance these past few years and will continue to do so out in the lobby. We got a couple of pool closures that you need to be aware of too for routine maintenance purposes, like the Fuentes del Morro pool at Caribbean Beach, which will be closed through late March 2024, and the Doubloon Lagoon pool at Port Orleans French Quarter, which will be closed until April 2024. You'll still be able to walk over to French Quarter's neighboring resort, Port Orleans Riverside, to use their pools during this time. A couple of the resorts like Polynesian Village and Fort Wilderness are getting ready to add more Disney Vacation Club options to their lineups. More than 350 refreshed Fort Wilderness cabins will replace the existing cabins at the resort and will start making their grand debut on July 1st. Meanwhile, an entire Disney Vacation Club building is being added to the Polynesian Village property, which is going to be completed at a later date this year, but it's definitely coming along. Because of all this construction, though, the walkway between the Polynesian Resort and the Grand Floridian Resort will remain closed, but you can still hop onto the monorail and transfer between resorts. And while we thought we were finally seeing Walcott over in World Celebration, Communicore Hall and Plaza still haven't opened yet, but they are expected to this year. We just don't know exactly when. And don't forget about the closures that aren't happening now but are still going to happen later this year too. The popular Epcot ride Frozen Ever After will close for renovations on November 2nd and be closed until the 7th. Not a huge closure, but still one you're going to want to be mindful of if your trip falls during that week. Disney's Blizzard Beach Water Park will be closing soon, starting March 17th, but Typhoon Lagoon will also be reopening on March 17th. And in 2025, we've got more resort pool closures to be on the lookout for, like of course the Fantasia Pool at Disney's All-Star Movies, which is going to be closed from January 2025 to April. And Stormalong Bay at Yacht and Beach Club is going to close in January 2025 and remain closed until May. And I will never stop talking about it because I don't want anyone to pay that much money and be disappointed. So we aren't kidding you about the construction and closures everywhere, and that can be hard to juggle, especially when a lot of these reopening dates are still so up in the air, making it nearly impossible to plan around. Despite Disney being big on wishes, you can't exactly wish real hard to get one of these attractions open for you. So my advice for you is this. If there's something you really want to experience in Disney that's currently closed or going to be closed, then plan around the gap. What I mean by that is to plan your trip later than Disney's vague opening timeline is giving you, if at all possible. For example, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you may be better off planning your trip for later this fall instead of that predicted summer opening, since the ride could very well be pushed back if Imagineers need more time to complete it. Or you might want to wait past the cold snaps of winter and plan to ride this one in spring of 2025 instead. The important thing to remember is, unless Disney gives you an exact opening date to put on your calendar, no opening timelines are set in stone. So the vague opening this summer, fall, or late 2024 doesn't give us too much to go on. However, don't let the general idea of construction dissuade you from a Disney trip. The Disney parks still have the majority of their rides and attractions and restaurants and shows and hotels open and ready for you to explore. So if one of the construction projects I just mentioned isn't exactly a must-do or a must-plan around for your group, then a few closures shouldn't completely throw off the trajectory of your trip, even if they are kind of unsightly to behold. Now, we keep an updated list of Disney's current closures and construction work on our DFB site, which I'll link down in the description so you can have it saved in your tabs when you need it. Another good learning recently, always bring these. There are 2 items that I feel are of the utmost importance to keep in your Disney backpack at all times. The first is plastic baggies. So plastic baggies are a great way to stow away your unfinished snacks and candy for later on, like that giant sucker your kid begged you for but only took a few licks. Yeah, put that in the baggie and pull it out later when they start begging you for a treat again. No use in throwing away a perfectly good $10 lollipop just because you don't know where to store it without making a sticky mess everywhere. Plastic baggies also come in handy when you're going on water rides and need somewhere safe to store your phone or other electronics, or if you wind up caught in a torrential downpour, plastic bags can save the day for your gadgets then too. Second item, hand wipes. Yep. I'm also on team portable Germ-X bottles to get your hands clean, but when you're at a quick service restaurant that's packed and you find one table that you gotta grab before anyone else does, even if it hasn't yet been wiped down by a cast member, then believe me, you're gonna be thankful to have those sanitation wipes handy. That way you can swoop in, wipe the table down, get all the grossness cleaned up, and eat your meal without constantly stressing over how dirty or germy hands might be getting. And believe it or not, there are lots of other times that those hand wipes come in very useful. Just think about that sticky sucker that you just put in your plastic baggie. I'm sure that that's also all over your kid's face. Anyway. Next up, let's talk park pass reservations. Sorry, annual pass holders, but 2024 has been off to a rocky start for us. While park pass reservations went away for almost everyone on January 9th, 2024, they're still sticking around for a lot of non-date-based ticket holders like us. Annual pass holders usually still need a park pass in order to get inside the theme parks. The exception to that rule is if you're planning on visiting a park after 2 p.m. on most days, excluding Magic Kingdom on Saturdays and Sundays, or you can plan on visiting during one of Disney's good-to-go days instead. Now, these show up on the annual pass holder calendar and are days when, no matter what time you want to visit one of the parks, you won't need a park pass to get in at all. The problem with this, you can't really plan that far ahead with this system. Disney stated that they'll update the calendar with more good-to-go days or weeks in advance, so they're not really giving us a ton of heads up. Just to be on the safe side of things, we recommend making a park pass reservation for your trip, even if you don't know whether or not it's going to fall on a good-to-go day just yet. Then, when the updated dates are released, Disney's going to automatically remove the park pass if you no longer need it. To view good-to-go days on the Disney World app, head to the home screen, tap the little plus button at the bottom middle of your screen, and toggle the pop-up menu. From there, tap Make or Modify Park Reservations, and then tap on the Annual Passes option under View Current Availability. This is going to pull up the admission calendar where you can select your pass type and the park you want to visit to see which dates are good to go. You can also view all the good-to-go dates by tapping the link that says View All Reservation Not Required Dates, located right above the calendar itself. Now, earlier this year, Disney dropped a huge promotion on us, one that offered up the returning Disney dining plan for free with the purchase of a Disney vacation package, which sounds awesome. And it can be awesome for some people, but not everyone. Let me backtrack here just a second before we get too deep into this point. Keep in mind that the last day you could book this free dining plan was on February 14th, 2024. But because Disney's no stranger to this type of promotion, we're expecting the free dining promo to reappear in the future. Meaning you need to know what the potential catches are now so you can decide whether this will be a good deal for you when it comes back around. Also, to fully understand what the returning Disney dining plan will hook you up with when you tack it onto your future trips. Be sure to watch some of our past dining plan videos on this channel to get a good idea for why exactly this service works for some, but not for everyone. Now, in order to have been eligible for this free dining plan, you needed to first and foremost be a Disney Plus subscriber. Yep, sometimes Disney does these discounts just specifically for certain affinity groups. Not everyone in your whole family needed to be a subscriber, but at least one person needed to be. So if you didn't have that, this promotion didn't even apply to you. You also had to pay for a Disney vacation package, which bundles your hotel and ticket prices into one cost instead of having to pay for them individually. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if you're planning on staying at a hotel off property somewhere to save money, this kind of vacation package does force you to stay at a Disney hotel, which is a pricey ask considering even value standard rooms tend to be $200 per night. Additionally, this deal could not be combined with other discounts, like current discounts on hotel rooms. So while free dining might sound like the default money saver in this case, versus 30 to 40% off your hotel stay, that's not always true, especially if your family doesn't really need a lot of big meals to satisfy them during the trip. So for future deals that you see on Disney's special offers, deals, and discounts page, remember to do some calculations and find out which one is actually going to be the best deal for your family in the long run. Now, if this sounds confusing to you, then I totally recommend checking out our DFP guide to maximizing the Disney dining plan over at dfbstore.com, so we can help at least do some of the hardest math, that Disney dining plan math. The team and I are familiar with all the ins and outs about which deals and dining plans are going to be worth your money in the long run, since we've been using the Disney dining plan since it was first released back in 2005. So before you purchase a plan that'll cost you a few $100, or you want to see if a free dining plan promotion could be worth investing in over other savings opportunities, pick up our DDP guide and use the code YouTube to save some extra money on your purchase. Now, I know this next one isn't a new rule, but it's still one that trips me up even in 2024, and I know that I hear from a lot of readers and viewers who get tripped up by this as well. For most Disney World table service restaurants, you have until 2 hours before your reservation to cancel your table free of charge. But if you forget to cancel your dining reservations before that 2-hour window, then you're going to have to pay a no-show fee of $10 per person, meaning a family of 4 could consistently lose $40 per meal if they don't remember to cancel their plans. And that's quite a bit of money to lose on something you don't even get to use. There are a few Disney restaurants that go against the 2-hour grain, however, and you're going to want to do your research before booking a meal there. Like Cinderella's Royal Table, for example, in Magic Kingdom. It's a signature meal that requires advance payment, and because of that, if you don't cancel at least 2 hours before your reservation time, you're going to forfeit the entire price of your meal without even eating there. And that's way worse than $10 per person, y'all, especially when you consider that an adult prefix lunch or dinner here is going to set you back $84 per person. Other unique signature restaurants or dining experiences like Victoria and Albert's at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, Takumite and Monsieur Paul in Epcot, and Hoop-Dee-Doo Musical Review at Fort Wilderness also have different cancellation policies from the standard. So make sure to double check those on the Disney website so you know what to do if you by chance need to cancel your meal there. By the way, if you run into an unexpected circumstance that causes you to miss your reservation, like maybe you get stuck on an attraction that breaks down and is totally out of your control, then be sure to speak to a cast member and see if they're able to help you work things out, specifically a cast member at the restaurant or at guest services. If you're running late, cast members at the restaurant will try to work with you, and in our experience, usually honor reservations within a 10 to 15 minute window. But these tables are on a tight schedule, and there's no guarantee that a cast member can squeeze you in if you do get there late. Try to plan accordingly and give yourself extra time, especially if you're using Disney transportation. Remember, it's better to arrive 30 minutes early than 30 minutes late. Now, hopefully all that extra Disney knowledge isn't weighing you down too much, because I know with great power comes great responsibility. So now it's your responsibility to make sure you have an amazing Disney World trip in 2024 and beyond. And you're doing a pretty good job because you're here with us at DFB Guide. Oh, now before you go, don't forget about those free Genie Plus cheat sheets. Just drop us your email over at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyGeniePlus, and we're going to get them sent to your inbox faster than you can say grim grinning ghosts. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.